Thomas Sankara was more than a man. He was a movement, a dream, a challenge to the world. In just 4 years, he turned one of the world's poorest nations into a proud, self-reliant republic. He defied colonialism, corruption, and international debt. He spoke for the poor, uplifted women, and called out hypocrisy on the global stage, and for that, he was killed. Assassinated at just 37 years old by his own friend. This is the story of Thomas Sankara, his life, his vision, his enemies, and how his death echoes across Africa even today. Childhood and early life, 1949-1966. Thomas Sankara was born on December 21, 1949, in Yako, a small town in French-occupied Upper Volta, what is now Burkina Faso. He came from a modest Catholic family. His father, a former soldier for the French army, instilled discipline. From a young age, Sankara stood out. Bright, serious, deeply curious. He questioned why his people were poor and why Africans lived under foreign rule even after so-called independence. At 17, he enrolled in the military, not out of a love for war but because it offered education. But the uniform didn't stop him from thinking like a revolutionary. Political awakening. 1966-1980s, Sankara studied in Madagascar during his officer training. There, he witnessed a massive popular uprising. He read the works of Karl Marx, Vladimir Lenin, Che Guevara, and Frantz Fanon. He began to understand systems, how oppression wasn't random, but designed, how global powers used debt, aid, and diplomacy to keep Africa weak. When he returned to Upper Volta, he was no longer just a soldier. He was a thinker, a revolutionary in uniform. Rise to power, 1983. By the early 1980s, Sankara became a rising star in the military, charismatic, fiercely intelligent, and immensely popular with the people. But he also made enemies, especially among the political elite in France, the former colonial master. In 1983, after criticizing the government, Sankara was jailed. That's when his friend Blaise Compaoré led a coup and installed Sankara as president. He was just 33 years old. What followed was one of the most ambitious revolutions Africa had ever seen. The revolution begins, 1983-1987. Sankara wasted no time. He renamed the country from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, the land of upright people. He slashed the salaries of government officials. He refused foreign aid with strings attached. He sold off luxury government cars and made ministers drive modest ones. He vaccinated 2.5 million children in weeks against polio, measles, and meningitis. He redistributed land from landlords to peasants. He built hundreds of schools, clinics, and railways without borrowing a cent. His motto? We must dare to invent the future. Women's rights and anti-corruption. Sankara was one of Africa's first heads of state to push women's liberation as a core part of national policy. He banned forced marriages and female genital mutilation. He promoted women to leadership, while he made International Women's Day a national holiday, and asked men to do household chores that day. He said, "The revolution cannot triumph without the emancipation of women." He also fought corruption fiercely. No luxury, no bribes, no excess. He lived in a small home, earned a modest salary, and owned just a bike, guitar, and a fridge. Global impact, Sankara didn't just reform his country. He challenged the world. He denounced the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and World Bank, calling debt a cleverly managed form of neo-colonialism. He called out African leaders for serving foreign interests. He criticized arms dealers and imperialism at the United Nations. His boldness earned respect from ordinary people across Africa, and fear from the elite. Enemies accumulate, 1986-1987. But Sankara had made too many enemies. Traditional chiefs lost power. Elites lost money. Foreign governments lost control. Even his friend Blaise Compaoré began to drift away, reportedly under pressure from France and Côte d'Ivoire's President Félix Houphouët-Boigny. By 1987, whispers of discontent grew louder. Sankara, though, aware of the danger, refused to back down. He said, "While revolutionaries as individuals can be murdered, you cannot kill ideas." The assassination, October 15, 1987. On October 15, 1987, Thomas Sankara arrived at a meeting with his aides. It was a trap. Soldiers loyal to Blaise Compaoré stormed the building. Within minutes, Sankara and 12 of his comrades were gunned down. No trial. No chance. His body was quickly buried in an unmarked grave. Compaoré seized power, claiming Sankara had become a threat to stability. He reversed many of Sankara's reforms. He ruled for 27 years. Aftermath and silence, 1987-2014. For decades, speaking of Sankara in Burkina Faso was dangerous. His name was erased from official records, but his image lived underground, in murals, in books, in whispers. Outside the country, his legacy spread. In South Africa, in Ghana, in Haiti, in Latin America. People invoked his name alongside Che Guevara and Patrice Lumumba. Justice and Resurrection, 2014-2022. In 2014, a massive uprising finally overthrew Blaise Compaoré. The people had enough. In 2021, a trial into Sankara's assassination began. For the first time, his family and country heard the truth. In 2022, Blaise Compaoré was sentenced, in absentia, to life in prison for the murder of his friend. Justice was delayed, but not denied. Legacy of Sankara. Today, Thomas Sankara is more than a memory. He is a vision of what Africa could be, if its leaders served the people, not foreign interests. If dignity came before debt. If courage defeated corruption. In Ouagadougou, his statue stands tall. In classrooms, his speeches are studied. On the streets, his face is painted on walls and worn on t-shirts. He lived just 37 years. But he left behind a legacy stronger than any army. They killed Thomas Sankara, but they could not kill what he stood for, because integrity cannot be buried. Truth cannot be silenced, and revolutions do not die when the man falls. They live, in ideas, in voices, and in every young African who dares to believe, like Sankara did, that a better world is possible.
Burkina Faso is a name drawn from the land itself, which has meaning in our language.
Which means?
Land of honest men.
Why did you want to change the name of Upper Volta?
Yes, because Upper Volta, it meant nothing to anyone, especially to us Burkinabe. It's a name that only reminds us of a colonial past. On the other hand,